Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of On the Road. I'm slowing down because a man just jaywalked with two beautiful German Shepherds. Wow, gorgeous dogs. Squirrel. Welcome to another edition of On the Road. It's been a long time since I've done one of these videos. No particular reason. Life's been very, very busy. And I've been on the road, in the air, doing a lot of ministry around the country. Maria and I just got back from a wonderful week with Grace Fellowship Church of Davenport, Iowa, one of our supporting churches. And just prior to that, I spent several days with Christ Fellowship Bible Church in St. Louis, another one of our supporting churches. And while I was out there in St. Louis, Pastor Geoff, as he often does, taught me something new. And it was in regards to distributing gospel tracts. And when I saw Pastor Geoff do this, I immediately knew it was something I had to do, because my first thought was, whoa, now that's bold. Why didn't I think of that? I got to do it. So Pastor Geoff was driving, and we were driving into a drive-through of some fast food restaurant. Don't remember which one, but he did this several times while I was out there. And he handed a gospel tract to the person working the drive-through window. Now, that's not unusual, certainly. But what he said was, and it really shouldn't be, when Pastor Geoff handed the person the tract, he said, "Hey, please take time to read this. This message changed my life." And I thought, man, that is amazing. What a great thing to say while you're handing out a gospel tract. Now look, if you've been watching for any length of time, if you've been a Christian for any length of time, if you've been sharing the gospel in a biblical way for any length of time, you're very familiar with Romans 1:16, which tells us that the gospel is the power of God for salvation to all who believe, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. But unfortunately, the first phrase of that verse is often left off. And I intentionally left it off when I just recited the verse. It begins with the words, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel." Now, if you're out there handing out gospel tracts, praise God for you. I thank God for you. And it's worth repeating, know this for certain, that handing out gospel tracts is not a lesser form of biblical evangelism. Why? Because the gospel is the power of God for salvation. The manner in which we communicate the true gospel is nowhere near as important as the gospel itself. Your efforts to biblically proclaim the gospel are powerful, no matter how you do it, because you are proclaiming the gospel, which is God's power alone for the salvation of those who believe. At the same time, we must not be ashamed of that gospel. Now, certainly, if you're out there distributing gospel tracts, I would be hard-pressed to say you're ashamed of the gospel. Not unlike the other 90+% of professing Christians who will never hand out a gospel tract, or maybe not communicate the gospel in any way. So certainly if you're out there trying to communicate the gospel in a biblical way, certainly you are not ashamed of the gospel. But are there times when our nervousness, our hesitancy to communicate the gospel speaks to maybe a hint of shame regarding the gospel? I mean, think about it. How many times have you been like me when I've handed someone a gospel tract and they say, "What's this?" It's for you. Or, it's a good message. We say something because we're nervous that if we tell the person that it's a gospel tract, they might reject it, or even worse, they might reject us. Well, you know, I've certainly overcome that over the years, and whenever anybody asks what it is, I'm quick to say it's a gospel tract. But what Pastor Geoff did, and what I saw him do several times, for me, really takes gospel tract distribution to a whole nother level. because he didn't wait for the person to ask what it was that he was handing them. He didn't wait. He didn't wait for the person to ask what it was, to say, well, it's a gospel tract. As he's handing it to the person, he says, look, please read this. This message changed my life. And I think that's a powerful way to put a gospel tract into someone's hand. Now, granted, if you're distributing gospel tracts at a stadium or at a large event, a parade, Hollywood Boulevard, someplace where you're handing, tracts out, many tracts out every minute, you may not have the time to tell every person who takes a tract from you, please take the time to read this. This message has changed my life. But certainly, if you're walking up to an individual to hand them a gospel tract, whether you're in line at a grocery store, or you're walking away from the teller at the bank, whatever the case may be, or you're out on the streets, you see a person standing off to the side and you walk over to hand them a gospel tract, you have the time to spend a little more time, just a few seconds, to really drive home to the person what it is that you're putting into their hands. Now, each time I have done this, I've seen a visible change in the person's demeanor as I'm handing it to them. Now, granted, there are times when I hand someone a gospel tract and I tell them it's a gospel tract, and they just get this look on their face like, oh no, it's one of those God messages. But when I've handed the gospel tracts out, saying what I have heard Pastor Geoff say, modeling what he's taught me by his own example, people get a genuine look of interest on their face. Many of them smile. Most of them are more prone to say thank you and to say that they would read it. So I'm in line at the drive-thru at Starbucks, picking up a Tango passion fruit iced tea for my lovely eldest daughter, Michelle. And as I'm pulling into the drive-thru, I see a young man at the back of the building, right near the drive-thru, on a smoke break. He was working one of the other restaurants next to Starbucks. And so he's sitting back there taking a smoke break. And so my car comes to a stop as I'm driving through the drive-thru right next to him. And so my window's down, and I lean out and I said, hi. He said, hey, how you doing? And I hand him a gospel tract. And the ones I'm handing out today are the Who Do You Say I Am gospel tracts that I wrote with Marv Plementosh at 1 Million Tracts. And I handed him the tract and I said, please take the time to read this. This message changed my life. And he said, wow, thanks. And so he took the tract, and it was my turn to continue pulling forward in line. The line was pretty long at this particular point. And I could see through my peripheral vision that he sat down and started reading the tract. Well, I moved up a couple spots, still waiting in line, and I look in my rearview mirror because I hear some rustling beside me, and here comes the young man squeezing between the bushes and my car to come up to me. And he extends his hand. He wants to shake my hand, and he said, thank you so much for that. That is a great message. And I said, well, I'm glad it encouraged you. And I asked his name. His name is Jonathan. And I said, Jonathan, I'll be praying for you. And he said, thank you very much. And he walked back to the back of his restaurant. And so I was so encouraged by that I wanted to share it with you all, hoping that would be an encouragement to you to do what I saw Pastor Geoff doing, and to do what I've started doing when distributing gospel tracts, and that's to simply tell the person with a smile on your face, please take the time to read this. This message changed my life. All right, that's it for now. I'm quickly running out of sunlight now that we're out of daylight savings time. God bless you. Thanks for watching another edition of On the Road. And until next time, be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid. Proclaim the gospel. See you later.